I want to walk you guys through what to expect when you log into Blackboard and start working on your discussion boards for the 6 weeks that we'll do them. Remember, when we have major papers due, we won't have a discussion board. So we'll have discussion boards in week 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. You can see here that I'm on the page of the week 1 discussion board on William Blake's Songs of Innocence and of Experience. And I'm just going to walk you through this. The structure of your discussion boards are going to be exactly the same in each week. So if you're watching this video, you could even be in a future week, week 2 or 3 or 7 or something like that. And all of the discussion boards are going to be the same. The prompts are essentially going to be exactly the same. The difference will just be which text is my teacher going to ask me to discuss with my class, or which group of texts, or something like that. So the first thing I'm always going to tell you to do is to do a close read of the texts that I've selected for discussion. The point of a close read is to really kind of dig into that information in the text, interpret it, analyze it, see what you notice. And if you have more questions about close reading and you haven't already watched that lecture video, I would definitely have you go back and review, what is a close reading. So when you go into the discussion board, you'll notice it's the prompt is text heavy, and that's just because there's so much information I want you to remember, and I am long-winded and I tend to explain in as much detail as I can, so just, I apologize if that's something you don't like. So the first thing you're going to do when you log in and you've done your close reading of the text that I'm asking you to discuss is to post 2 questions that you want to explore as a class. And I encourage you to post these separate from each other. So post a question, hit submit, post another question, hit submit. Don't post your 2 questions at the same time. I think that it makes it easier for your classmates and yourself to respond to your questions. And so if you have like a question and a follow-up question that really relates to that first initial question, I'd say that's just one question. When you are asking questions, you want to ask questions about the text that would warrant a reply that required close reading and analysis. So you don't want to ask evaluative questions like, did you like this reading? Something like that does not ask a student to analyze the text. It just asks a student to look at the merit of the text or their own personal feelings about a text. That's not really the goal of this class, so we want to avoid questions like that. Also, questions like, what were your opinions on this reading? I think that's just too vague. You really want to ensure that your classmate has something to pull from. And so you can see in the beginning of each of these discussion boards, I will have question, maybe 2, that students could respond to. Most of the time it's going to be 1 question and probably a follow-up, which really just kind of functions as 1 question in my opinion. So if you're looking for an example, always check that out, and make sure that, your questions aren't too subjective and they're too broad. So you want to make sure that your classmates can point to a place in the text, interpret that place, and successfully answer your question. Good questions might be something like, what does sleep symbolize in the poem by Charlotte Smith? What tone of voice is the speaker using in Robert Burns' poem? These are not the best questions, but they're the types of questions that I'm looking for. Avoid questions that are summary style questions. What happened? When? ... Or who did this? Why questions? How questions? Those are good questions as long as, again, they're not summarizing the text. So you're going to go in there and you're going to post 2 questions. Post them separately. Then what I want you to do is answer one of your own questions. When you're answering your own questions, you have 2 options. You can type in a paragraph response, or you can record a 2-minute voice recording. And I'm going to have a tutorial video I will always link you to it at the bottom of the rubric or at the bottom of the prompt for the discussion board. So if you're like, that sounds like something I'm interested in, but I don't know how to do that, the discussion forum that we use has the option for you to just right there on your screen, hit record, talk into it. You have up to 2 minutes to record, and then you can post that recording. So it's really, I think, very user-friendly. I've tried it out. It works really well. I'm not 100% sure, but I think if you use the Blackboard Open mobile app, you might even be able to use your cell phone to do the recordings. Now, when I'm asking for recordings, I'm still asking you if you choose to do recordings. You don't have to. You can just do old school, type in your response. If you are going to do a recording, however, you want to make sure that you verbalize when you're quoting, you reference page numbers, the structure of your recording is still really sound and doesn't have too much extra fluff or repetition. I'm still rating it based on quality and content, so just keep that in mind. But I do find that voice recording gives us a sense a little bit more of just being in a face-to-face class, because if we were having this discussion in class, you wouldn't all be reading from pre-written paragraphs. I mean, you might, but maybe not all of you. Okay, I'll have even an example in here that you can click on too. So you're gonna ask 2 questions. Ask them of the text. Make sure that they require analysis. Post them separately. Answer one of your questions, one of the ones you ask, and then go in and answer one of your classmates' questions. Anytime you want to post your questions and answer them, that's totally fine. Just know for every discussion board, all of the discussions are due, the questions and the answers are due by Sundays at 11:59 p.m. And of course, because I have that extension policy, all students have an automatic 24 hours to turn in any work. So you could essentially have until Monday nights at 11:59 p.m. If you needed an extension, yes, you can have up to 2 throughout the semester. I wouldn't use them for any discussions, but you never know. Okay, so 2 questions, 2 answers, 1 for yourself, 1 for someone else. If you need help, if you're writing your paragraph responses and you need help figuring out how to structure it, or if you want to maybe kind of like plan out what you're if you want to record and you want to plan it out, check out Writing About Literature. I have an example paragraph in there, and I have an example just kind of like nicely structured response. If you're not sure how to use MLA format to cite, check out the MLA format section of the course. And then of course there's tutorials and example recordings within the content linked here. As far as the rubric goes, here's how I'm grading you. 10 points, which is 5 points per question on the questions. Now, if you ask a question like, did you like this? What happened when? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to give you any points for that. So make sure your questions are good. If a classmate asks one of those questions, don't answer it, because you're not going to get any points for that answer. And then for each of your answers, the question that you ask that you answer and one of your classmates' questions that you answer, both 15 points for that, for a total of 40 points. So I think that pretty much covers everything. You should go ahead and get started reading the content, coming up with questions, formulating answers to those questions. Let me know if you have any questions, and otherwise I really look forward to reading through and responding to your discussions.